Hello, everyone. Welcome here.
Yeah, welcome everybody. And we're really excited this morning to have our good partner, T. Baker Smith. We have Jean-Paul and we have Chad. And they're going to talk about how they've used FME to help them with port and marine operations. So they're going to go through some of their workflows, and their contact info is at the end of the presentation. So if you have any detailed information or questions you want to ask them or learn more, they can go as deep as you want one-on-one for sure. So they have built this. These are the guys who have built this, had the vision for this and everything. So we're really excited to have them with us this morning. So yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so so I'm Don Murray. I'm the co-founder of Safe Software, and so that's me.
Yeah, and I'm Jean-Paul, IS Group Manager at T. Baker Smith.
And I'm Chad Kimball. I work with Jean-Paul at T. Baker Smith, and I'm a data integration lead.
Welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. All right, and the agenda here.
Yeah, okay. So we'll just a quick introduction to how to use the tools. Elizabeth will run us through all of that, and then we're going to jump right into the T. Baker Smith solution and spend the bulk of our time focused on that, because that's what everybody wants to hear this morning. And then, of course, we'll give you some resources and next steps on how to learn more about what the FME tools set, but also how to reach out to them if you want to learn more or have a further discussion with them. So yeah.
Excellent. All right, and if this is your first time in Livestorm, just a brief intro. So if you have any audio issues at all, click that help button for 4 simple steps. And then we also have ways to interact with us during the webinar. So keep letting us know where you're tuning in from in the chat. It looks like we have quite a range of folks tuning in all over today, so that's awesome. Leave your questions in the questions tab as well for Jean-Paul and Chad. We'll have a bit of time at the end to answer any questions that might come up. And then we do have a poll coming as well. I think that's just in a slide or two, so keep an eye out for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you do wish to download the deck, you can do that with the button on the top right or under apps and handouts as well.
Okay, and the webinar recording will be distributed at the end, right?
Yeah, great question. We'll send that out in an email after the webinar, so be sure to keep an eye out for that, as well as any resources like the slides there. Okay, and our poll here, I'll go ahead and launch that under our polls tab. So if everyone wants to head on over, we'd love to know which area of marine operations do you think will benefit most from data integration for your company? So we'll give everyone a moment there to place their votes. Looks like we have a leader already. Yeah, real-time operational decision-making seems to be a strong leader. Is that kind of what our panelists would expect here today?
Yes.
I agree with that one.
Awesome.
Nice.
Definitely an important one for sure. Fantastic. All right, I'll hand things back over to Dawn. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so JP and Chad are going to show us this morning how they've used FME to just gain insights into what's going on in ports and how they can help the ports run more smoothly and more efficiently. And so and you're going to be blown away by what they're up to. So I'm really excited. So yeah, that's it. And of course, this is the platform they've used. The FME platform with Form is where you do all the data integration, where you build the building blocks for all the work. That's where the heavy lifting's done. And then FME Flow is where you connect it, you automate it. You can, have triggers that when it runs, you can build no-code web apps, all those sorts of things to leverage the great work that you do in Form. And of course, Flow Hosted is a version that we host in AWS for you, so you can use FME Flow without having to set up your own infrastructure.
Awesome. And as we hand things over to Jean-Paul and Chad, I'll get our presenters just to turn off our webcams so we can save on some bandwidth for the rest here. And I'll pass things over to Jean-Paul and Chad. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Elizabeth. So yeah, so today we're gonna dive into iBlueHarbor. We did have the opportunity back last year, as Don had mentioned, to go ahead and kind of give an overview of iBlueHarbor, what it does, what we can accomplish. And today we're kind of going to go into a little bit more detail as far as how we're utilizing FME and to make everything come together. So with iBlueHarbor, it's really all about elevating like quick decision making in marine planning, maintenance, and operations. And really, through the utilization of technology and seamless data transformations enabled by FME, Form, and Flow, we're able to bring all this together. So one thing to note is that iBlueHarbor does accomplish a couple things. From project and data collaborations, users can collaborate on projects, they can manage data effectively across teams. Reporting and decision making is an important topic. You can quickly generate comprehensive reports to drive informed decisions and streamline operations. So with iBlueHarbor, marine operations and Endeavor kind of thrive through the enhanced efficiency of the optimized processes. So let's take a look at exactly who iBlueHarbor is for. Of course, we'd like to say everyone, but at the same time, for port decision makers, government and regulatory agencies, marine contractors, private maritime users, operators, vessel operators, data analysis, and quality assurance. So if you think of it from like port decision makers, really you're kind of empowering port authorities with actionable insights for strategic decision making. If we look at data analysts can use it. They can have robust data analysis tools from iBlueHarbor where they can go ahead and give valuable insights and drive informed decision making. So with iBlueHarbor, whenever we first came to concept a couple years ago, our product owner, Jim Naismith, went ahead and said, look, we need to bring all this together, something that can go ahead and serve up marine operations, plannings, and everything else. And I will quote him, he did say it needs to have big buttons and crayons, and it needs to be versatile. So with iBlueHarbor, we're kind of looking for strategic architecture to kind of fall into place. And the overall architecture of iBlueHarbor is very simplistic in approach. We use a mean stack. And then as far as we combine that with an Azure SDK from a presentation standpoint, we're using Azure Blob Storage, and we're utilizing third-party APIs. So whenever we're sitting down looking at design and figuring out how we're going to build this out, basically FME was a great approach for us. It's kind of the glue that holds everything together. So what we found is that with FME, we can be scalable, we can have a no-code approach, and then we have integration automation from FME Flow, validation, and then also a big bonus for us was versioning. Now, when we looked at scalability, we really looked at the parallel processing, distributed processing, because this allows iBlueHarbor to tasks to be divided into smaller units and processed simultaneously across multiple engines, which ultimately, that saves on processing time and improving overall performance. With workspace optimization, we're constantly going back and trying to optimize our workspaces. This gives us the ability to kind of fine tune and change configurations, eliminate bottlenecks, anything along the lines that we see pop up. From resource management, we can dynamically allocate resources based on workload demands. So if we find basically a process is taking too long, well, then we can set a priority to it. And then lastly, the cloud integration. For us, we like cloud technologies, and this gives us an easy capability to scale. So through these scalable capabilities enabled by FME, iBlueHarbor empowers users to efficiently process and manage data at any scale. So the no-code approach, we're a very, very small team. And so really the no-code approach was kind of important to us. It kind of provided us with a rad development environment, yet we do follow an agile frame methodology. And then as far as increased accessibility, like no-code platforms like iBlueHarbor make a data integration and transformation accessible to a broader range of users. The flexibility and agility was very important to us. So that way we can change things on the fly without having to go through the laborious process of builds and compiling and everything else and fixing bugs and tracking before we get it out to production. Reduced our maintenance overhead. This was a huge one for us, along with cost savings. For a small team like us, of course, we have to be quick, nimble, and then cost effective. So with cost savings, we kind of eliminate the need for specialized coding skills and reduce development time. And we can achieve that significant cost savings in both development and the maintenance side of the house. So from integration and automation, we utilize this very heavily. With iBlueHarbor, we can interact with multiple formats, which is the beauty. So depending on what type of formats come across, we can quickly go ahead and figure out, okay, we're going from one business application to another application. Oh, we need geospatial functionality. We're going to serve out to geospatial applications, which is really a great thing for us. And the workflows and automations have been those have been really good to use. And validation, of course, as everybody knows, is very important from an end user perspective, but also from a system standpoint. So garbage in, garbage out is kind of always one of those things that kind of will hit an application. And with FME, we've been able to utilize a lot of validation, conditional checks, and then on top of that, the logging and reporting. So we're able to see if something did occur, we're able to find and pinpoint where exactly it did happen. And then lastly, version control. Granted, we're a relatively small team, so version control is important to us, regardless of us being a small team. For bigger organizations, version control is always good to have and in place. I do recommend it highly if you haven't done so. And then next, my colleague Chad's going to walk you through the ease of setup and kind of getting started in iBlueHarbor.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'll walk through just to show how we had the UI kind of, like John was mentioning, just kind of make it real easy to get your data in, and so you can use the tools that iBlueHarbor has to offer. So this is your dashboard. So the first thing you would do is you would establish an area, and you name your area. You put in your datum information, which will be used on the import processes moving forward, because it'll use those to convert those to LO84, which shows on the maps. Put in your vertical datums, and then you can put in your areas, dredge information for your target depth, allowed maintenance over depth. So this is the first thing you would do when you start to start an area to import into the app. So once you do that, and as you see, we have it it pretty much flows. You set up your project, and then you load your files, and then everything kind of flows and how you would you want it to flow. So first thing would be set up your information, and then from there you create your area, and then you fill out those params, and then it'll create this in the database. So once you have that created, you upload your files. So you have two types of files. You have reference files, which would be like signed and sealed maps, anything that wouldn't be used for creating layers in the app. So you upload those, and it can be drawings, PDFs, DXFs, and then you move to your data documents. So this would be your XYZ data, whether it be single beam. Most of the time, it would more likely be multi-beam data, and your area boundary limits for your area, which will be used later on for clipping of that said data for your multi-beam or whatever your survey data would be. So let me go back. And from there, you can upload color rams. Right now, we support HiPack and FreedomMouse. You upload it in here, and it just converts it and then stores it in the back end so that they can be pulled up later for when you create your layers, so you can have it styled by whatever color format you'd want for this particular area. And then it just kind of shows what we're doing for that. We're importing the color ramps from the hot pack formats. It runs through FME and then it's stored in the back end in Mondo DB for use later on when you go create your layers and pick your color ramps. Let's see. And format wise, like we were saying with the you can upload DXFs and the XYZs. DXFs would be for your infrastructure, your boundary, and infrastructure points. So to be used later on to create your layers. And like we're showing here, those are the formats that are used right now that we support: DXF, DWG, GeoJSON, text, CSV, and the HiPack LNW. And then all this runs through FME and does all the transformations, and then stores this in the back-end data, which the survey data would for the multi-beam points, or your survey would be points. Infrastructure would be polygons and points. And then we create polygons of the contour data. And right now we do it in, we save it in 2/10 steps for later being used in our tools in the app. And just some of the key transformers we use in those processes. One of our big ones is the DM generator, and then Clipper, and then we extract those geometries with the geometry extractor. And then of course everything goes in the JSON format, so we go use the templater and formatter, and then store that in our backend database. And right here we have a tab for our meteorological stations. So you'll have your tide information and your currents. So for the tides, we read these in, and you can set weights. So some areas might use more than one tide station. So you can load both of these, and you can have a weighted input on it. So you might want to use that, like this one shows 100. You can do a 50-50, and it'll just kind of go through both and kind of do a weighted average on those stations. And then also as well, we'll pull in currents, so you can show that information whenever you have your area loaded in the app. And this is kind of just showing how we're doing. We're pulling this information from external services with HTTP callers, and then we're just doing some processing in FME, and then we're displaying that on the app. Okay, and this is how you would import areas of interest. It could be a ship, it can be a route. You can store these in, and they can be used later on in the application to do any kind of calculations on the tools that we'll talk about coming up. And this is just on the flow, how these go in there. You import them in, which pretty much would be DXFs. It can be GPX files as well. Mostly it's DXF files. We do all the transformations, clipping, validation in FME, and all these right out into the backend database to be used later on in the app. And I'll pass it back on to John Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Chad. Yeah, so now we'll go over some of the tools, kind of give you a little bit more in depth on, I think we have 5 or 6 tools that we're going to show you guys out of iBlueHarbor. And we're going to start off with basically, so for latest observations, how can we make near real-time decisions based on current marine observations, nearby stations, as Chad mentioned, tide stations, currents, against the actual data that was surveyed. So really, from our latest observation tool, what we do is, as Chad had mentioned, we'll go ahead and use a weighted algorithm within FME that goes out, finds your tide station data. It's actually a polling model, so it's constantly going every 6 minutes to pull data from tide stations. Then from there, we're able to go ahead and serve it up within the tool and base it against your survey data, along with your 2 hour, your 4 hour, your 6 hour, all the way up to 12-hour observations. So we can match that against your survey data. And I don't know if it's hard for anybody to see, but it is kind of blurred. But right here, you have basically your survey data, the last observations from the tide stations that were read. You have a detailed list kind of moving forward. And then this is actually going out to 72 hours to go ahead and find trends for you. So it's really for planning or anything else like that. It's very helpful. As far as predictive, we have a tool that's a predictive visualizer within iBlueHarbor, and this actually kind of gives you a better representation and kind of gives you something more to look at. So from a 2 hour, 4 hour, 6 hour, all the way up to 12 hour, as you can see, we automatically, is what I like to say, generate the layers on the fly. So you can toggle on and off. And if you want to, you could actually do some kind of spatial temporal where you can just roll through them. And then lastly, from the observations, if you don't want to see the survey data, but you just want to see what's coming out of the station itself, we do offer that as well. So this will be basically what the tide stations are reporting minus the survey data. And so that's the latest observations. I'll pass it back to Chad.
Hey, all right. So we'll get into how does this help with operations for dredging. So we have tools baked in the app, so you can not only have your data housed in a database, and it's just stuffed away, and you can actually use it and just see, make it more usable and do calculations on it. So when you set up the original area, when you initially set up your area, you'll put in your defaults, which will carry over into this volume calculator tool. And when you run it, and it'll calculate the volumes on those depths, and it'll give you the yardage, and it's split out by the design, advanced, and over depth, and it gives you total. And not only does it give you those totals, it'll highlight these areas individually. So not only do you get the volumes to see what it would take to get to those depths, you can see where they're at, just to see where problem areas are at. You might just have one small area that you might have to dredge to get it to those targets. So it gives you a good visual on that, so you can help to plan your dredging schedule. And when you run these, it creates these layers temporarily until you clear. So and it does it on the fly. And the what's useful in this is it does it fast. And then the way we have it in the database, we pre-process the data at the 210 step that we was talking about. So when you put these numbers in, as soon as you hit a run, it already has those values calculated to the 210 step. So it does it on the fly. There's no waiting on it. So it's very useful just to see where you're at for your dredge design on it. So it's very, very useful tool. Probably one of the most used tools in the application. Let's see. And this just kind of explaining what we're doing. We load this pretty much. This pre-processing is done as soon as you load your XYZ, and of course it's clipped to your area. So we only want to do calculations on the area. So it's doing all that magic in FME, doing the transformations, saving all those tables on the back end in Mongo, and probably one of the bigger ones uses the blob stores to go get that data we had imported earlier. And then the big tool here to get all those calcs generated is the DEM generator, and then we do some other clipping and extractors to get all that stuff, making sure everything's in the right format we need before we use the JSON transformers to store that data into Mongo. And of course, the raster polygon, that's the big one. That's pretty much what makes the those polygon layers that we're talking about. So pretty much all these tools are going to be working off of those polygons. Again, saved to the 2/10 step for your survey data. And we'll show here, that was the volumes. We'll show here how you can calculate your under-kill clearances to see if you're going to have any kind of issues in your actual dredge, or the actual routes fairways going to your area of interest. So it's a similar similar tool. You could either load one of the preloaded area of interest, like say here, this one is showing a ship, and then the other route area, you could actually put in at your whatever spec you want for like a center line, and give it a buffer, and so you can run this against your data, and then you have the information you put in for your kill clearances, and it pretty much it'll hit the data, and then it'll show you where you're going to have some problem areas in your areas of interest. So it's a pretty good tool, and it's used pretty good, and it also it'll highlight those areas as well. So very useful for planning. And it's just showing how you can use the templates that would have already been loaded, your saved ones, and then you can have manuals, and you can upload in different formats, whether it be DXF or GPX, and it'll save those into your drop down, and you can load these into your area, and they can be rotated. The ships can be rotated and moved along your dock or in your fairways. And another thing to note, we don't have it on here, but you can actually have multiple areas in here. So you could place another ship on side of this ship, on either side of it, or multiple spots. And when you run the tool, it will give you those values, the under-kill clearances, and highlight them for each individual AOI that you have loaded on the app. And this is just kind of showing you what the when you hit run, what it shows you. As you see here, this is referencing the ship. So we have the draft and the under kill. We run the tool. It shows you where you're going to have some troubles, and also it's pulling in the tide data. So in this particular shot here, we had some clearance issues with the survey, with the depths, and it shows you kind of going through tides up to 12-hour. If you're going to have any the tide might be coming up, might be going down. So sometimes it can show you kind of what's going on in that area, and you can kind of see if you can wait for a tide to come in later on that day, or vice versa. So it kind of just gives you a good visual real fast to see where you're going to have some troubles at. And then as you see on the screenshot, the orange that's kind of on top of the ship, that's your problem area, which is close to the dock area. So you can not only get those values to show where you're going to have, will show the how much clearance issue you have as a number. You'll actually get a visual on the app, and then these as same as the volumes. It's a temporal. As soon as you get out of it, these layers they disappear, and then also we have some reporting. So you can generate a report, and it'll kind of give you a screenshot of what's going on with the data you have on, and then it'll just export these values as well, so you can save it, and it shows the time whenever you did this. So so not only does it save the report, you have a time frame of when this report was generated, and you can turn these on and off too for the conflictions. Let's see. How does iBlueHarbor analyze and present changes in survey data, and specifically in shoaling rates displayed as a heat map, aiding in planning for future minimum depth, dock, and maintenance dredging. So kind of what we've been showing, just takes it a little step further here with the scouring and shoaling and scouring. So you have a subscription to the software, and for most of the clients that are using it, we actually do their surveys, which we don't have to do the surveys. It just so happen we do most of the surveys, the ones that we have here. So there might be on a quarterly maintenance schedule or survey schedule. So as a survey is completed, it's imported into the system with a date stamp on it for that area. So you can run difference in shoaling against previous survey. Right now we have it limited to 2. We're working on maybe trying to do things where you can have multiple surveys and come up with an average. But right now it'll be you would probably pretty much be doing your current versus the previous survey. So you can run that in the app and create these difference in shoaling layers. And what that helps the client is it can show kind of what's going on at their dock between those quarterly surveys or whatever date range you pick to see where it might have some hot spots, and then also it creates these contours layers to show real visually like greens is where you're going to have where it's deeper, yellows it might be getting shallow, and then you start getting to the reds where you got some definitely got some shoaling coming in. So it gives you a nice visual of that when it creates these, and when you run it to, it will create those layers, the difference layers and the shoaling at the same time, and then it'll populate that in your in the app as it shows here, and then you can turn those on and off. It saves the layer by the difference or shoaling, and then also the dates of the surveys that were picked to create those layers, and those are not temporal layers. Those are saved, in the database for that layer. Unless now they can be deleted, but those are saved. So you can, when you get out of the app and go back in, those layers are going to be there until you rerun them or delete them out of the thing. And they can be, then they're kept for each survey. So you can always have your historical data to go back on. Instead of maybe having to go through paper maps or volume reports, you'll have this on this app here. It's always there. You can go back to it by that date. Just kind of just runs through what FME does in the background. It's pretty similar to the others. It's connecting to the blob, getting that data. We got user params, what it tells it which dates to go fetch. It does the calcs, the clipping, the validation, and then it writes out those difference in shoaling points and also difference in shoaling contours. Pretty much the same transformers used as the for doing volumes and all that stuff. Just this one saves it as a in the database. It's not a just a temporary layer, and it runs pretty quick. We have it optimized pretty well on flow, and some of these areas are pretty large, and the way we have it set up, it can get a big area like that. It has a pretty good bit of points and contours, and it'll create those diff and shoaling layers usually within 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and pop them back onto this app that quick. So it's pretty quick. And I'll hand it back off to John Paul to talk about exports and reporting.
Yeah, Chad, thank you. Yeah, so really at the end of the day, people want their data, right? Everybody wants their data. So how do we deliver that out? Well, your data is your data. We have a couple different options throughout the application. You'll have the ability to export data. So for instance, like Chad was talking about with area of interest, maybe you have a route that you planned. You can go ahead and export either GPX, JSON, DWG, all those type of things. But we also have some generic reports, some canned reports for vessel access for loading. for dredging and shoaling. And these are also coming in the future too, where we're kind of going with a white glove approach that maybe users do not need the bulk of the application. They just want to put their data in and then get monthly reports, or even daily, let's say. That's kind of how we're going to leverage Flow from that instance to go ahead and send out these reports to those individuals who don't want to use the application. From a data export standpoint, kind of just going back over what we mentioned, really right now, iBlueHarbor can export DXF, DWG, text files, CSV, KML, and probably many more once we get to it. We use basically kind of the same process, I guess you would say, similar to how we found FME back in the day, was kind of from a clip and ship approach. We process the data with FME. We do clipping, validation, format conversions, and any datum transformations. So no matter what your data is in, we can export that out to the datum of your choice. And then from there, basically the data is exported as CSV, KML, DXF, text, GeoJSON. We can even use integrations to dump it out to ArcGIS Online or any other platform that basically FME supports. Some of the key transformers that we use in data exporting and reporting, of course, is the Azure Blob Storage Connector, the raster dim generator. That's an important one. The clippers, very important. And as Chad had mentioned earlier, the raster to polygon cursor. And then, of course, the JSON, all the JSON functionality as far as the templater, the formatter, and then we write that out to Mongo. So for reporting, same kind of process as data exports. Really, the Azure Blob Storage Connector and MongoDB Reader and Writer are very important because we have to get the data. We also cross-ref that against some of the GeoJSON files that we store. And then from there, we're able to serve up on the fly to the application. And then lastly, conclusion. iBlueHarbor, this is from October, I apologize. But we began with 3 areas in 2020, expanded to 33 and then 81. And then of course more now since we're in 2024. As of 2023, we had 300 survey areas. We're conducting 250 plus per year. From an FME standpoint, 25 plus, I think we've bypassed that within the past couple months, just with all the added functionality. And then ongoing integration of new FME processes to try to figure out how to be cost effective is really the main goal for us. And then in the future, we're planning on AI integration, and then of course the remote engines to get closer to the data for speed. Mm-hmm. And lastly, let's see. Let's explore the boundaries. I mean, the boundless possibilities that iBlueHarbor and FME bring to your marine operations. And let's set sail towards a future of smarter, more reliable, and safer marine endeavors with iBlueHarbor and FME. And once again, we'd like to thank you all for attending, and the folks at SAFE for having us, giving us the opportunity to present this information.
Wow. Well, thanks. Thanks so much, John Paul and Chad. I think everybody watching this can see why we were so excited to get you guys to present. I mean, just the breadth of systems that I have a lot of notes here, just the breadth of systems that you guys use real time, transformers for volume, QA, use FME Flow, apps, automations, and I love some of your quotes. Everybody wants their data, and and that's really what it's all about, right? Like people collect data, they want it, they need to, they know the decisions that their data supports for them better than anybody else, and I think there's another couple of points, like just for folks who are thinking about using FME as a platform for their solution, is you'll notice their apps didn't have FME on them at all. We don't have any policy. we want, partners like T. Baker Smith to build the best visualization that they can, and not have it, crowded by, powered by FME or anything like that. And so, and I like one of your comments early, like your users, like big buttons and crayons, right? I think at the end of the day, everybody's users are like that, right? What you're saying is you want to make that, that interface as simple as possible. We all have so many things, and your users are, they're experts in other things. They don't really need to be, oh my goodness, now I got to become an expert in this and only to use an app. If you can just make it almost seamless with their, with their day to day, then that is, just amazing. And also, we don't care how many users T. Baker Smith has, right? The growth is there, and to us, it doesn't matter if they're supporting, at a site 1 user, 10 users, 1,000 users, 10,000 users. That's not part of how we do it. We just try to build this platform and try to make it faster and faster from release to release. So then JP and Chad can just do their craft without this worrying about, oh my goodness, now I'm going to have to worry. Okay, now we have to be smarter because this underlying platform is really starting to squeeze our, our business. And I think that, part of what we really take pride in as well. And yeah, so I am just blown away by all the things that you guys, showed us all today. And I look forward to, what we can do together. There are some interesting things coming out in FME, and one of the things that we're going to be working with JP and Chad with is, we're working on AR, and so they're just great partners who give us frank feedback, which we love, on how to make things better. And you also mentioned AI powered. Well, there's Elizabeth. When is that AI webinar? Is it next week?
Yeah, it's coming up. I think just a couple of weeks away. I can plug it in the chat here.
And that one is, again, all about how you can leverage AI within FME workflows, not just from an authoring standpoint. So we're tackling it on 2 fronts. One is to make the authoring you more productive, but the second one is incorporating AI into your workflows to, gain insights and that sort of thing to help you see things easier and faster. And so that'll be an exciting one. So yeah. So anyway, I'm so excited about this one that, yeah. So yeah. Yeah, a little bit about SAFE. If you don't know, we've been doing this for 30 years, and we have customers all over the world. And and you can just see the numbers there. I'm not going to read them out, and we love data. I was on a call with somebody, and they said, you guys are like the TSMC of data movement. And I took that as a huge compliment. So for you folks who understand what TSMC is, and it just says that SAFE, we focus on being that data pipe. We focus on being able to connect to anything from real time, from spatial, no matter what the system is. Here they were using MongoDB, and they were using some cloud connectors, and just, the whole point is you should be able to connect to data wherever it is. And that's what we do. We don't focus on, building, solutions that target an industry. So JP and Chad know they're not going to wake up one morning and look at those SAFE guys. They started, building stuff on dredging. No, we're not going to do that. We have enough just focused on being, the TSMC of data movement. And then, Chad and John Paul have this amazing, skill and knowledge that we just want to work with them, not, and that's just the way that we love to work. And it's just fantastic. So, yeah. So now some resources. So get our ebook if you're new to the value that spatial data brings to the enterprise. It's in the language of dummies, so it's really kind of fun. If you're really familiar with spatial data, you might just get a laugh out of reading it. I was a guy who produced a lot of the content that then the author took and dumbified it, and so that was an interesting experience for me. But it's a really enjoyable, high-level thing. The Academy, of course, our all-new Academy. We're really working on our restaurant model at SAFE to have great support and really support all our users like you would if you went to a fine restaurant. And also we have this all-new Academy. So our learning management system, our LMS, is just out of the world now. It's so good. The knowledge base, that's going to be replaced soon too. I think in February, but there's the link there. and it's just how-tos, an amazing community of users. Go on there, engage others, ask questions, answer questions. It's just a great way to engage with our community of thousands and thousands of users around the world. You'll find people in your area, you'll find people in your industry. So it's just great. And all the amazing webinars that Elizabeth wrangles and pulls together and is safe.com/webinars. And we're lucky to have Elizabeth. She just does an amazing job, and you'll find it there. And if you have any ideas for a webinar, or there's things that you would like to see in a webinar, contact us. You'll see it there, and just say, hey, I'd really like Safe to do a webinar on this or a webinar on that. And that's, we would really, really love that. And I know Elizabeth would. Yeah,
absolutely.
Some next steps here. Contact us. We love to talk about data. You can ask Jean-Paul and Chad. I'm sure sometimes when they're talking to me, they have to, they're glad to get off the phone because I just keep
not at all.
And come to our event. Our next one's in Seattle, 2025, and we think there's going to be like 2,000 people there. It's the first time we're doing our worldwide conference in the United States, and so we know that makes it so much easier for folks in the U.S. to travel to the event, and we're really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. And if you love data or want to learn more about what you can do with data, the Pika Data Integration is the place to be. And our accelerator, maybe you only have 90 minutes and you just want to get an idea of the whole overview of FME. There's no better way than the FME accelerator. You just have to show up. We start machines. You don't have to install anything. So you don't have to, barter with your IT department and things like that. In today's environment, it's often very difficult to get installed software. So it's all online. You don't have to bring data or anything. You just show up, and then by the end, you have a really great idea of what FME platform can do for you. So, awesome. And our claim your community badge if you're part of the community. So there you go. So, yeah. And with that, any questions, Elizabeth?
Yeah, it looks like we did get a couple comments, and it looks like a question here too today. So I'll get our presenters just to turn back on their webcams and we can take a look through the panel here together. Fantastic. All right. Yeah, so I'll bring up the question here on the screen from Reed, who's just wondering if iBlueHarbor can import 3D data and visualize in 3D. Any insights there?
Yeah, so right now, technically, it's all 2D. We have looked at using 3D and just trying to find the right mesh, really from the data, I guess, storage side, capacity side, and serving that up through a web application is always tedious and cumbersome sometimes. So we're kind of taking a stand back approach and just, kind of analyzing all the different technologies out there. But awesome. Pretty much we can gen. So coming down the future, we're looking at different cross-section profiling and whatnot, which is a 3D approach in some aspects. If we look at a ship and the hull of the vessel, right? So we're looking at bringing that in and incorporating that on top of your floor, the seafloor itself. So it is coming. So just bear with us.
Great.
Awesome.
Good.
Great. Yeah. Thanks everyone for your comments in the chat there. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's really was fantastic. And then there's their contact info one last time. So and be sure they would love to chat about what they've done. It's a really amazing work, and so feel free to reach out to them if to talk about anything. It's been a real pleasure, and thanks JP and Chad for doing this with us. It's really great.
No problem.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
All right, thanks so much everyone for joining us today, and hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you everybody. Really appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.